Do you even movie?
We just saw Love Hurts.
Yes, we did.
Which, we're recording this right before actual Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were a lot of couples at the theater in line.
There was.
And none of them.
For Companion, it looked like.
Yeah, they were all going to Companion.
Yeah.
A lot of really young folks.
Which I think, honestly, I think we've seen every single Valentine's Day available in theaters now because we've seen Companion, Hard Eyes, and Love Hurts.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as far as Love Hurts goes, action, comedy.
Absolutely.
In theory, romance.
Somewhat. My biggest issue with Love Hurts was the title. The title made sense, but the romance aspect of it did not, or it didn't hit, I would say.
Oh yeah,
I didn't think so.
Oh, Hateful Dave.
You've said the same thing in the car. What are you talking about?
Well, no, my problem with Love Hurts, and I hate being harsh, but the whole film came off as really, really half-baked.
Unbalanced.
Well, I mean,
tonally and...
Exactly. Like, what happens when something's half-baked? Like, some of it's all mushy and still whatever, and then the other part's spongy and nice.
Yeah.
It didn't seem like it was very comfortable being a comedy or an action movie. And infinitely uncomfortable being a romance story.
Entirely.
Zero chemistry between the lead and his romantic interest. Although it's not like they had a chance. They're in like the room together like 3 times.
3 times of that, yeah.
And yeah, there's not a lot going on there.
No. I mean, it's basically the classic story of you don't know who you're messing with again, but at the same time, like it's a story we've seen 1,000 times before.
Well, but this version is a little different. Like he's not hiding because he's a former hitman.
Yeah.
But he's not like hiding from the people he used to work with. They know that he's out.
Yeah.
They let him leave or whatever.
Have his life, yeah.
But he gets dragged back in because the woman he loves was he was ordered to kill her.
Yeah.
And although I guess they weren't dating.
There was
just
never
was in love with her.
Really any hint of romance. It was basically that he let her go. Spoiler alert, he let her go.
Oh, that's like we know that pretty much immediately.
He let her go. I mean, you really can't spoil the movie except for like the one death that actually affected us.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of my point about it being kind of half-baked. Like, it's kind of like, you ever listen to interviews where Jackie Chan says like what movies he says no to?
Mm-hmm.
It's very much the kind of movie Jackie Chan would say no to.
Yeah.
Jackie Chan often says like, I don't want movies that are overly violent. I don't want movies that are overly, like they're overly violent, too much murder or whatever.
Too much. I think he says for the most part, like murder for murder's sake. Like it's just basically just to up a body count.
Well, and if you watch a Jackie Chan movie, I mean, for the most part, if anybody dies, it's a big deal in a Jackie Chan movie. Aside from like that movie where he played the villain or whatever, those are very different. We're talking
The Foreigner.
Like the Foreigner, which I like The Foreigner.
It was good. It was dark.
It was cool seeing him play a villain.
Yeah.
But he was also like for lack of a better term, a righteous villain.
Yeah.
He had been horribly wronged. His daughter, I believe, had been killed. And he was basically on a warpath for vengeance.
Yeah.
That was self-destructive on purpose.
Yeah.
And he knew it. And it wasn't a surprise to the audience.
No, and it really wasn't an action film either. It had action sequences.
Yeah, no. It has a few stunt scenes.
It was a drama.
But with Love Hurts, I wanted to like it a ton, but it felt like the components they had were sparse. They were just like, we want, what's his name? The actor.
Kiko-wan.
What was it? Kiko-wan. They wanted him to star in an action movie, and they wanted him to like be a badass. And they got a well-known stunt fight coordinator to be the director for his feature film debut, a guy by the name of Jonathan Esebuyo. I don't know if Eusebio.
That's what it looks like to me. Yes.
But so you have Ke Kwang, and he's this kind of dorky average guy, which he's really great at playing.
Great at that,
this is like. This is the worst thing we're going to get from Everything Everywhere All at Once being a hit.
Yeah, I could say that.
And I mean that with love, because Everything Everywhere All at Once was amazing, and it showed what an incredible actor he was.
Yeah.
It showed how endearing he could be and what range he could have.
Yeah.
But then you watch Love Hurts, and I guess the biggest problem, if I had to really dig into my psyche,
would
be the love interest is very unlikable.
Mm-hmm.
Because the whole concept is that she was allowed to not get assassinated.
Yeah.
And then what does she do? She comes back a while later and shows up in his life and is like, I can't keep hiding, and you shouldn't hide from your brother either.
And also I want money.
And she wants to money, although there's more to it.
There's a lot more to it.
Well, kind of. But what ends up happening is she shows up in his life and literally starts just ruining people's lives.
Yeah.
Unrelated. There's an immense amount of varying degrees of collateral damage. Some were very out of place in a comedy.
It was one of those movies where you have amazing action sequences. I mean, some of those fights are incredible and, and insanely brutal, but then your murder count for like actual like main characters is like 2.
Yeah, and only the characters that are nice.
Yeah.
Only the characters that literally did nothing wrong whatsoever.
Even our villain, spoilers, technically doesn't get murdered on screen at least.
Yeah. Well, from the way the first fight scene went, I assumed just nobody was going to get murdered. That it was going to be one of those, which is very Jackie Chan-esque.
Yeah.
That like you just don't kill anybody. But then this whole thing where his love interest is like, I want the real you to come out or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then she's so happy when he starts like
becoming vicious.
Well, because he kills like henchmen.
Yeah.
Toward the end.
Yeah.
And she's like so happy, and all I'm thinking is like, I thought that his whole character development was that was bad, and he hated that. But now it's like, I'm so glad you're back. Like that's who I needed, the vicious murderer. She came off really unlikable because all she did was show up and wreck everything.
No, I agree. I think my biggest issue with it was it didn't feel like it really ever gave us anything that we didn't get in like the first 10 minutes.
Well, and if they wanted to get that across in a way that was a little bit more entertaining, they could have had it be one-sided. Like he's really in love with her and she's callous. That could have been a good like growth moment if it was like, he realizes like, you don't care about me very much, do you? But no, it's supposed to be a love story. They're supposed to actually be in love.
Yeah.
And all I could think the whole movie was, man, his life was so great. Like I remember about halfway through the film when it turns out his brother, again, not a big spoiler, his brother is the person who's like running, Knuckles. He's running the organization he used to work at.
Yeah.
And once you start to see what's going on and all this, my first thought was really like, man, this like our main character, he would have had such a good life if he just murdered that woman.
Mm-hmm.
Like
probably.
And apparently he had killed dozens before as a hitman.
Well, and that was the thing too, was you had so many different main villains to stack up to your actual top dog. And it was just and I didn't have an issue with that in regards of just like learning who those people were, but it was just like they amounted to nothing. They were just names.
For the most part. I mean, we had a few that got some development, but that
everybody was against everybody.
It wasn't a terrible movie.
No,
it was a fun time.
82, 83 minutes. I mean, you're in and out for one.
Yeah, but I could definitely understand why audiences were not coming to see Love Hurts at our theater. They were there to see Companion.
Like you and I said, it's a movie where you can definitely tell studio involvement heavily, because I don't think an 83-minute movie was the original idea.
I mean, it might have been.
It might have been, but
I mean, the other thing was that there was a lot of moments that were predicated by voiceover, which made me feel like maybe the movie was a big mess and they were trying to make it make sense.
Yeah. And not just one voiceover, multiple character voiceovers.
Well, it was just him and the woman.
There was Knuckles had a couple too.
Oh, okay. No, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. He did.
Yeah.
But they were he was like in a room with somebody. It didn't feel quite as like, as opposed to like the leading man and the leading lady were like laying in bed, and it's just kind of, it felt more like a voiceover as opposed to like a monologue.
Genuinely, I would have probably enjoyed it just a little bit more if the first 10 minutes would have been him telling the story that we kind of saw spread throughout the movie. I think if we would have been like, I used to do this, blah, 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 and like go through all his run-ins and everything like that. And then it's just like, but now I live this quiet life.
Well, I think that what they were going for was the, like, you find out as we go. And I think because he's so likable and because he seemed to be a legitimately changed person, because that's the other thing. It wasn't like those other, you don't know who you're messing with movies where it's like, oh, the badness was always still in me and it always wanted to get out.
Yeah.
Like there was never a moment when he was working as a mild mannered real estate agent where like he like resisted the urge to like punch somebody or like tackled somebody and like or even raised his voice.
Shit, I just realized something. The big death that we talked about, we're not going to spoil, but the other one is the other realtor dude.
Yeah, he's barely in the movie at all, and all he does is try to help.
Yeah.
And not only try to help, he tries to help like his number one competitor. So he's literally like not a jerk at all.
No.
Well, and not only that though, like,
and I'm 90% sure he was a property brother.
And he dies like really violently.
Yeah, no, he absolutely does. We actually see inside his head.
Yeah, he gets his brains blown out. Meanwhile, like the killers who are like, just nonstop killers get like a lot of love. I don't know. Maybe
Drew Scott, it totally was a property brother.
I'm not familiar with
Property Brothers are a reality show. It's two twin brothers that sell realty.
Oh,
that was Drew Scott. That was one of them.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. But since we, Love Hurts, it's fine. But we could also talk about the movie that we really did enjoy this past weekend.
Oh,
Hard Eyes.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Happiness.
I haven't watched it in a while.
Well, Valentine's Day is right around the corner.
I gotta get that Criterion Blu-ray at some point.
Yeah, you do. No, we
actually, 4K, I think.
We did check out Hard Eyes.
Yes, we did.
Which was a really fun Valentine's Day horror movie.
Done by Josh Rubens, who, if you're not familiar with the name, he is the man who gave us so far Scare Me and Werewolves Within.
Yes, two very good movies.
Very good.
In my opinion, Scare Me is his best film to this day.
It's kind of neck and neck with me for Werewolves Within, because Werewolves Within, that twist, like I texted you when it happened.
Yeah,
it's
like good.
That's so good.
No, it was great. It's just Scare Me. There was something about the honest simplicity
of telling stories.
It's literally a guy and a girl in a cabin, and they're both writers who are vaguely competitive with each other.
Yeah.
And they end up just trying to scare each other by telling them a story that they're developing, which I thought was the friggin' coolest concept.
It was a cool concept.
And I loved it. I absolutely adored it. But nothing against Werewolves Within or Hard Eyes.
Yeah.
They were both really fun. Hard Eyes, I was very surprised to find myself feeling like was very influenced by early 2000s slasher movies.
Yeah, there's no doubt.
Yeah, and not just Valentine, which is kind of the obvious comparison, but it was similar to Valentine in a lot of ways. But also it reminded me a lot of like Black Xmas. It reminded me of Sorority Row.
House of Wax.
Yeah, where it had this very slick look to it, which is nothing wrong with that. The characters were all a little catty, like a little extra catty, and like to where it was like, if you dialed it a little bit more, it would be unbelievable. But they always reeled it in just in time. Just when you thought like, oh, this person's a caricature of a person, and then they would do something and be like, oh, okay, no, I believe that they're real. Aside from like a few of the sillier slasher victims. But I mean, a lot of slasher victims are going to be relatively one-dimensional.
And going to Hard Eyes, the overall design of the Hard Eyes killer, I thought was really cool. I thought just creating that character, creating that slasher film, and then we live in this slasher film now where this character has been killing people for years now.
Yes.
On Valentine's Day. I love the concept of it, but I think what I really liked about Hard Eyes most was, we go from Love Hurts that had very bad chemistry. Hard Eyes had really good chemistry between the two leads.
Yeah, they had great chemistry to the point where it almost pissed you off.
Yeah.
Like they were so likable, and that's kind of the thing that made me love it even more is it kind of, in a twisted way, works as a rom-com.
Yeah.
It definitely works as a slasher movie, and it works as kind of a comedy as well.
Yeah.
It works as all three simultaneously, and the only one that loses out the most is rom-com, which makes sense because rom-com doesn't merge very well with horror comedy.
And I've seen a bunch of people commenting that it had too much rom-com in it for them.
Without spoiling, it had some very ballsy choices that I loved. It had moves where it did not give you what horror fans would expect, which I think is what they deserve, is to not be given exactly what they're always expecting again and again.
I think the key too was they gave us a lot of red herrings, which kept us wanting to guess who the killer was throughout the movie.
Yeah, but the red herrings even were a little winky.
They were winky,
like
but
in a fun way.
They were winky, but at the same time, I didn't call the movie. Like I didn't call who the killer was until probably about like 20 minutes.
Well, they did that thing where they left you plenty of suspicion.
Yeah.
But then they made it more complex in order to make it pay off better, which I thought was great.
Well, and also I love the tropes, the romantic comedy tropes that they do, like the running to the train station or airport.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That whole Fake Out was fantastic.
Oh yeah.
So no, Hard Eyes was probably one of my top 3 of the year so far, even though we're only in February.
I was gonna say, so what are your other 3? Because we've only seen like 6 movies for
Companion and Flight Risk.
Flight Risk was so much fun.
Yeah.
Companion, bar none though, top Valentine's Day movie, and it will be in the box office as well. I mean, it already is pretty much. But Hard Eyes, ton of fun.
No, absolute blast.
And I would love to see it do better. It's right now not doing great. Maybe it'll upswing during Valentine's Day. Who knows?
Yeah.
But it's funny though, because you could say like, well, it's not going to upswing at Valentine's Day because, it's such a guy movie. I mean, it's all slasher bloody and stuff. It's like, no, the girls want to take their guys to see the movie about the sex robot murdering everybody. You see what I mean? It's kind of funny.
I'm just happy that we have the holiday horror in 2 of them in theaters this year, basically.
Yeah.
We haven't had that in a while.
Yeah, we really haven't, especially on Valentine's Day. Well, I feel like it's been tried.
Yeah.
And I mean, even My Bloody Valentine, I mean, that was a long time ago. Then the remake did not pull big numbers, I don't think. It might have.
It might have. I think the 3D really killed it, actually.
I mean, I saw it in 3D in the theater.
I saw it 3D opening night, yeah.
Now I'm curious. But my point is, really my main point is, I would like it to do well because, and this is something a lot of my friends, especially my horror fan friends, don't want to hear. Slasher movies don't do well in the box office and haven't for quite a while unless it's literally Halloween or pretty much just Halloween.
I mean, it's a big pull for that name, obviously.